Hello, and welcome to a screencast for reading one of the Livy, Romulus and Remus story found in stage 48 of our textbook. I'm going to guide you through the translation and the grammar so that you can have this as a resource as you prepare for your test. Pulso fratre, Amulius regnat. So we start off with the ablative absolute with his brother having been driven out. Amulius reigned. Amulius was king. So just a quick note about the tense here. Regnat is the present tense, but very frequent to use a present tense when you're telling a story. It's called a historical present, and with a historical present, it's fine to translate this grammatically present tense verb as though it were a past tense. So with his brother having been driven out, Amulius reigned. Added scelere scelus, he added crime to crime. So scelus, the accusative, and scelere, the dative there. And then Livy expands on what he did, adding crime to crime. So first he usurps the throne, and then he inter amit virilem sterpem fratris, right? So he killed the male offspring of his brother. Fratris filii Rea Sylvia. So this filii Rea Sylvia is going to turn out to be the dative, and we'll find out when we get all the way down to adimen, it's actually a dative of separation. So we'll actually translate this from his brother's daughter, Rea Sylvia, per speciem honoris, through the appearance of an honor, when he had chosen her as a vestal, meaning a vestal virgin. He ad imit spem partus. He took away the hope of offspring with perpetual virginity. So he kills all of his nephews. He doesn't kill his niece, but he does try to ensure that she never has any children. Sed debebatur ut opinor fatis tantae origo orbis maximique secundum deorum opes imperi principium. Let's see. So here is a reminder of the importance of always working strictly from the grammar, right? So looking for things that are in the nominative to be the subject, making sure we're checking what's modifying what, since words don't have to appear next to each other to actually agree. So the two subjects in the nominative here are actually going to be origo, and then all the way down here at principium. So we'll start with those. But the origin, tantae orbis, of such a great city, que, and the beginning of the maximi imperii, the greatest power, secundum deorum opes, following the power or the resources of the gods, debebatur fatis, was owed to the fates. Ut opinor, as I think, as is my opinion. So ut with the indicative just means as. So in terms of noun adjective agreement, tantae jumping over to orbis, and then maximi jumping all the way over to imperii. So again, gotta work those endings, right? So ae and is, both genitive singular, though they agree, but they don't match. So be careful about that. We compressa vestalis, so the vestal, that's Rea Sylvia, having been crushed by force. That's a euphemism for raped. So the vestal, having been raped or having been crushed by force, when she had given forth geminum partum, a twin offspring, cell iterata, cell, so you've got cell, cell. When you get a pair of them, it's whether or. So whether rata ita, having thought thus, or because a god was a more honest doer of the crime, nuncupat, she named Mars, the patrem incertae stirpus, the father of her uncertain offspring, right? So she was a vestal, shouldn't be producing any children, but suddenly she's pregnant, and so that could land her in big trouble. But she claims that Mars was actually the father, that she was raped by Mars, and that he was the father of these twins that she was having. And Livy kind of inserts himself a little bit, saying that she says this either because she actually thought it, which is a possibility, or because maybe something else happened, but she thought she's more likely to say survive or get off the hook if she can convince everyone that it was actually a god who did it. Sed nec di nec homines, but neither gods nor men Windicant protected out ipsam either her herself or her offspring from royal cruelty, or from the cruelty of the king. Regia, the adjective there. So I offered of the king as a translation, but notice that's just an ablative adjective going with the crudelitate. So royal cruelty or cruelty of the king. The sacerdos, the priestess, wincta, having been bound. Careful, that's not wicta conquered, it's wincta bound. So having been bound, dator in custodiam is given into custody. And then the subject changes over to Amulius. He orders that the boys be sent into the flowing water. So that miti there, a present passive infinitive, to be sent. So the passive of mittere. Fortequadam divinitus, by some divine chance, the Tiber, having poured over its banks in gentle pools. And then this part, notice it's in brackets. So it's in the original Livy, but not in your, the text cuts this line out. So you're not responsible for it, but I'll just tell you that it means, the water could not be approached all the way to its usual course. Let's see, so the Tiber, having overflowed, was giving hope to those carrying the babies that they could be submerged, another passive infinitive, just like you have with mittere, in the water, quamvis languida, however sluggish. So there was divine intervention here again, that the Tiber was flooded, as it often did, and the people that had been discharged to go murder the boys get there, and they can't quite get to the actual flowing water. They can only get to these still pools, but they had hope that the boys could be drowned even in the sluggish water. Thus, ita velut defuncti imperio regis, as though having carried out the order of the king. So defuncti, the PPP dep, and it's a compound of fungor, which is one of the deponents that takes the ablative. So that imperio is actually an ablative because defuncti takes the ablative. Along with, remember, we have utor, fungor, fruor, vescor, and potior. These are 5 deponent verbs that all take the ablative case. So thus, as though having carried out the order of the king, they exposed the boys in the nearest pool, where now there is the ficus ruminalis, the ruminal fig tree. Ferent, they say, so remember, ferent can also be a word for say. They say that it was called the Romulan fig tree. So that gets our story going. The boys were marked for death, but through divine intervention, they managed to survive.